All right. Thank you everybody for joining us today. So what we wanted to do was put together something that was informational to help you guys from our perspective on what you're dealing with for the day-to-day. So kind of pulled together myself and then obviously Sue Savio. For those of you who have never heard Sue talk, you're in for a treat. She's an excellent presenter, a wealth of knowledge. And so we're excited to have her here today. And then I'll go ahead and carry the second half with some information from our perspective as a restoration contractor. We're going to keep it generic. We're going to keep it factual. And really what we're hoping for is at the end of this, you have a ton of questions, because that's usually where the value is for everybody, is you guys have the ability to just ask Sue and I, hey, like, how would you handle this situation? Or I got one that's a pants on fire. What would you guys do? What would you recommend? And then if those questions don't present themselves today, know that you can always pick up the phone and call either one of us with anything that you need, whether we're your agent or your contractor of choice. We don't care. Sue and I are both aligned in making sure that we provide value to our communities and help wherever we can. And then I would also encourage you to pay attention, because there's going to be a little bit of a pop quiz at the end. And if you answer one of our 5 super secret questions right, Kira, what do they win? I don't know. Sorry, I know you were trying to take a drink just now.
So we are giving away 5 $50 Amazon gift cards, just because Amazon allows us to easily email them to you. So it's pretty seamless. We can get those out ASAP. As soon as you want them.
Awesome. Thanks, Kira. And I think I happen to be sitting at my stepdad's desk, and he has this like air-powered BB rifle he used to shoot squirrels off the bird feeder. You could probably buy one of these for 50 bucks off Amazon, just so you know. All right, without further delay, I'll turn it over to Sue for her presentation on claims in and outs.
Okay, well, pleasure to be here, people. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about claims, obviously, and we're going to start from the very beginning, what you need to know before you even have a claim, during, and of course, after. Whoops, sorry about that, hit too fast. Okay, first thing to understand is, what does the property policy cover? And all property policies, including the HO6, okay, both policies cover fire and lightning, hail, windstorm, but not necessarily hurricane on an HO6, though the master policy always has hurricane on it. We cover smoke damage, explosion, vandalism, riots. Okay, all those riots on the mainland, guess insurance claims. Aircraft damage, part of an aircraft falls off, lands on you, it's all part. Vehicle damage, somebody creams through the building. Theft of the building, kind of hard, but you know, maybe the lobby furniture gets stolen or something. There's theft coverage. Falling objects, palm tree, coconut, something of that sort hits the ceiling, hits the roof, causes damage, causes rain to enter. That's something we can cover, okay? And then the thing that causes more claims than anything else, and it drives us all nuts, including the owner who's having the claim, water overflow, sudden and accidental from a domestic plumbing system. Let me repeat that, water overflow, okay? Sudden and accidental, those are 2 good words to remember. Sudden and accidental, not, it's been leaking for a year, Sue, and I finally decided to get this fixed. I have all this mold. That's not sudden and accidental. But I went to work this morning, I came home, and my refrigerator leaked the water line and got water all over. Sudden and accidental, okay? I was away for a week, I came home and my unit's full of water. Sudden and accidental. I've been gone a year, and I got all this mold all over, and my unit's full of water. And the last time I was there, it wasn't leaking, but it's been a year and I don't know when it leaked. More than likely, that's not going to be a claim that's covered. It's not sudden and accidental. It's been leaking a long time. Hence, in Hawaii, you're supposed to have someone looking at your units. So from a domestic plumbing system, it doesn't matter whether it's the washing machine, the toilet, the refrigerator, whatever, as long as it's from an appliance or a common element pipe, or not a common element pipe, your own pipe, it is a covered peril. Okay, those are the perils we cover. So let's get into the next slide. So there's 2 types of policies. There's the HO6, that's the one the unit owner should have. Whether they live in it or rent it out, it is the broadest policy that any unit owner should have. And landlords can have it, owners could have it, whether you live there or not. Then, of course, the master policy, which we take care of with the association. So owner doesn't have to worry about the master policy, just has to pay for it in his maintenance fees. But the HO6 is where the owner has to make sure he's getting the right type of policy. Okay, the HO6 policy are for people who own a condo. It covers upgrades. Remember now, bylaws. 99 and 9/10% of the bylaws in Hawaii say as originally built. Okay, that means Formica, for many of us, pressed wood cabinets, orange shag carpet, the old bit style from the 60s and the 70s, okay? Granted, the newer condos are much more high-end with granite and marble, but still, as originally built. When people go in nowadays and rip out carpeting and put down a beautiful wood floor, as originally built, when the claim comes, means carpet money, not that beautiful wood floor. The HO6 picks up that upgrade. So it's very important that upgrades made by the current owner or the prior owners are covered under the HO6 because the association has no way to insure it. There's no way, even if you wanted to. Imagine having to go into everybody's units to see what they've done. It would be next to impossible to make sure you have the right amount of coverage. So that is the responsibility of the unit owner. It covers the contents in the unit, all your stuff. So every owner has a lot of stuff. You got to make sure you're covering to what you need. There's the association's deductible, which is always assessed under 514B 143 to the causative owner. Very few boards pick up the deductible, and if they can't determine what owner caused it, many boards are going to put that deductible, spread it out amongst the owners receiving money from the claim. So the AOAO deductible is something the HO6 policy covers. And of course, it covers the owner's liability. Somebody's coming to visit, slips and falls inside the unit, that's the HO6. If they slip and fall on their way to your unit, that's the master policy because it happened in a common or a limited common element. For example, if someone slips on oil in your parking stall, we probably both are going to be sued on that one because it's a limited common element, but it's out in the open and maybe there's rules that the association is supposed to clean the stall every month or whatever the case may be. Maybe there's not. So that way we're both going to get involved on that one. But the HO6 is a wonderful policy, relatively inexpensive, that protects and extends the master policy and protects the unit owner. It doesn't protect a tenant, by the way. Okay, it's the unit owner, the HO6. The master policy covers the building as built per the bylaws. That's why every time there's a claim, you will hear the adjuster say, I need a copy of the bylaws, whether it's the HO6 adjuster or it's the master policy adjuster. They always ask for bylaws. That's why I always tell you, send them to me. I'll take care of sending them in with my claim. Because if I send it with the claim, it's just one step faster. We cover the association's business personal property. So you might have an office for your condo. You might have computers for your condo because you're resident manager or your site manager or your general manager. You might have lobby furniture. You know, everyone is so different. But we do cover your business personal property. If you own the resident manager's unit, it is covered as well under the master policy. If you are renting a manager's unit, you really should be looking to purchase an HO6 as well to protect your interest since you're renting it at that point. Master policy covers upgrades made to the resident manager's unit if owned. So when you've finally taken your 30-year-old resident manager's unit and decide to guss it up, you have to let us know because we have to increase the master policy to cover that owned unit because it's not as originally built now. You want your upgrades covered. So if you put $50,000 of upgrades into your manager's unit and you don't tell us, then we don't know that it's all been gussied up and that you need an additional 50 there to cover your upgrades. So let us know when you upgrade a resident manager's unit. You want to be adequately covered at all times. So now you have a claim. Let's get into it. Washing machine overflows, you have a kitchen fire, whatever. What's the HO6 carrier does? He is not paying for extraction, okay? He is expecting the master policy to pick that up, okay? He will be paying for damage to the as-built of the condo, okay? It's not going to pay for that. It is going to pay for upgrades. So the washing machine overflows and it damages their wood floor. That's the upgrade, okay? The walls are as-built. That's the master. Of course, the extraction people come in and do their thing and dry it out, and they've got a nice little bill for us all to have. It's going to have a combination of things for the HO6 and things for the master. That's fine. The adjusters will figure out who pays what. So it does pay for damage to contents, the HO6, and the cost to live elsewhere. This is very important on the HO6. There's nothing worse than somebody saying, I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my mortgage. I got to pay my maintenance fees. And now I can't live in my unit for 6 weeks, or I had a big fire and I'm going to be out for a year, that type of situation. But your HO6 policy has loss of use. If you're a landlord, the HO6 loss of use converts to loss of rental income. So if you were renting it for $2,000 a month and you now tenants moved out because the place burnt down or there's a large water claim and they're not going to pay rent for something they can't live in, your HO6 policy takes care of you. So it's a great little policy, you know, $300-400 a year, but it's amazing how many people do not have one, okay? So we really do need to make sure that you have an HO6. It also pays the association's deductible. And because we are having so many water claims, gone are the days of a $5,000 deductible. A lot of water claims now, or water deductibles, are in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $25,000. I have a couple condos with 50, and I have 2 with $100,000 water deductible. So the HO6 is very important, because if I cause that claim and I'm being assessed $50,000 or $100,000 or even $10,000, it's a lot of money. Okay, and I'm going to have to come up and pay it to the association so you can handle this claim. So an HO6 is a must-have situation, and you must have not only the policy, but adequate or robust limits. Don't scrimp. Always tell people that. Don't scrimp. You're going to be surprised how inexpensive it is for the limits you need. Okay, so the HO6 is very important on your claim. So now you have the claim, the washing machine overflows, the kitchen fire, there it is. That's a great one. Master policy does cover extraction and drying of the unit. Okay, and it's going to cover all the taking out of all the things that are damaged. It does pay for repairs to the as-built. Okay, and it's going to just cover the smoke damage to the buildings, units, hallways, outside, units above, units below, that type of situation. Master policy is going to take care of all of this because it's as-built. Okay, so step number 1. Now we've had the claim. We've got the adjusters out there. Everybody's turned in their claims. It's going along fine. Everybody's back in. But, you know, how do we stop these claims, people? Because we're having a lot of issues with claims. Our agency files 7, I used to say 5 to 7 a day. Now it's 7 to 10 every day. At least 7 water claims come in. And it's amazing how we'll file one claim for a condo on Tuesday, and then by Friday they're having another leak. And it could be sometimes the same unit, but another appliance. We've got to stop, because that's why your deductibles are getting so high. And insurance companies paid out, for every dollar they collected in 2019, they paid out $2 in water claims only. Okay, never mind the fires they had, never mind the slips and falls they had, everything went into water claims. So they lost money. So that's why rates are going up. And that's why condos are seeing, you're reeling from what your renewals are coming in at, because the companies have had it. Because they know these water claims are really a maintenance issue. In other words, if we had our appliances checked every 5 to 7 years, they wouldn't, and a plumber told us, hey, this is going to, you know, your water heater's about to rust out, go get it repaired, get a new one in. If we had someone check our main pipes, whether we put a camera down them to say, hey, you've got some blockage dealing, whether it's roots on the low rises or whether it's garbage from the high rise condos, whatever it is, we've got to do some things to stop the claim. And so we have to stop the cause of the damage. So when you first have a water claim, of course, you've got to shut the water off. I don't care that you got to shut the whole building off or a whole stack. If you can't shut off one unit, too bad, so sad. It has to stop. It's like a fire. You don't say, well, your unit's burning, I can't disturb the rest of the people. No, you would call the fire department instantly and put out the fire. Well, same thing here. Shut the water off, whether it's the ice maker, toilet, building main line, whatever it is. And owners don't know where to turn their water off. Okay, and that's something that would be nice. If I had a condo that literally did a brochure for all of their owners that showed their kitchen. They took a sample kitchen of their own. They made a little brochure of where this water shut-off valve is, where you find it. So if they ever had a claim, they knew what they were doing. Because to be honest with you, how many of us know where it is? We don't. But if you could get your owners to understand where to shut off the water, that helps, especially for condos that don't have resident managers or site managers, because you know it always happens when somebody's not around. So for fire and smoke, you call the fire department. So slip and fall, when you have a slip and fall, take a picture of the area and then fix the cause. Don't say, well, I got to leave it like that until the adjuster gets here in 3 days. No, because we could have another problem. So take pictures, fix up what the cause is, you know, whether it's the raised sidewalk, get somebody in there, whether you have a hole in the ground, moss, clean it up, do what you have to do so the next person doesn't slip and fall. You don't want more than one claim over any incident. And these are things you can do to help stop the cause of the damage. Number 2, write up an incident report. I cannot stress to you how important this incident report is. And don't just say, water leaked from unit 203. That's not a good enough incident report. State the cause and what unit it came from. Washing machine overflowed. Ice maker leaked. Okay. Rain came through ceiling. Whatever the case may be, state the cause and what unit it came from. Give us the names, unit numbers, and contact info for everybody that's affected. We want to be able to send this with our claim report to the adjuster so he can start calling these people and setting up a time to get out there when he's going to come and set up an appointment. I'll be on your island between the hours of 9 and 12 on such and such a date. You know, that type of a situation. I always tell you more details better than less, okay? Because 6 months from now or 5 years from now, somebody's going to buy a unit and is going to say, I understand there was a water claim in this unit. What happened? Did they take care of it? Did the mold get done? It'd be nice to have all the information so we can let them know that, yes, it was taken care of. Here's the report from the extractors. Here's the report on what the adjuster came up with. And then the person who's trying to sell his unit can do it without any hassle from any of us because we've got an incident report that clearly defines what was done and we've got the backup to that. So more details better than less. And I don't care whether you, the type of site manager or general manager or property manager that wants to write it out in hand print, that's fine, as long as I can read it. Whether you want to do it on a computer, whether just do an incident report. It is so important. Okay, number 3, remind owners to file their HO6 claim. Many an owner is going to say, but it wasn't my fault, I don't want to file a claim. It's not so much that we're worried about it being anybody's fault. What we're more worried about is that there's going to be damage to upgrades and things the master policy cannot cover. It doesn't matter that the unit owner above caused it. You still have to file your HO6 claim. And then you hear everybody say, oh, but my HO6 premium is going to go up. No, it's not like auto. The only way an insurance company can increase an HO6 rate is to literally file it with the insurance department and increase everybody's rate. So when you see your homeowner's premium being increased, it's because your company got a rate increase or you increased the value of your limits or they lowered your deductible or raised your deductible, something like that. But they don't just pick on you like they do with your auto carrier. Okay, they can't do that in homeowners. So it doesn't mean because you file a claim, you're going to see additional premium charged to you. Your carrier may not like you, but it's too bad, so sad. That's what the policy is there for. You want your adjuster to get involved to help you get through this claim. And in the end, maybe they'll pay out nothing on your claim because it's all been handled by everybody else, but at least he was there to help you, walk you through this claim procedure. When you talk to owners and you're trying to convince them to file a claim, they got to cover their upgrades. They really do. Nobody else can cover them. They've got to cover their contents. Nobody can do that. Their loss of use has to be covered. And if they're the causative owner, they're going to get stuck with a deductible. We know that for sure. So it really is important they file a claim. You want to almost tell them you're filing it for yourself, you know, to protect you. And that's how I kind of get most people to agree to file an HO6 claim when they're the innocent owner. Number 4, you got to send this incident report to the association's agent. We really do need it, even if it's below the deductible. Not that we're going to file a claim, but we will put it in your claim file. And in case the claim rises, you think it's nothing, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, over the deductible and we've got to get it filed. I've got all the info I need. I can do it instantly that I get your email that says, Sue, this claim is over the deductible, get it filed. Because I have all the incident report. Okay, so I've got everything I need. We're not looking for it. You just have to give me the date of loss because that's how everybody files. And then we'll go ahead and get the information to the adjuster with the bylaws so he can go ahead and start this claim. And many times, it's not just within a week we find out the claim is more than we thought. It may be 6 months later. So it's really nice to have the incident report done at the same time the claim. So even though it's just there's just a spot on the ceiling that's below the deductible, the manager should still make an incident report that says on May 5th at, went to unit 234, water leaking, small patch of water below deductible. Found out washing machine up above leaked during one of the washes, they repaired the machine, all done. Sounds like it should be nothing, but you don't know. So if we just have that type of a thing done for you, everything that goes wrong is really helpful. So an incident report, please get them done. Now, there's nothing worse than your adjuster saying, Sue, these people won't call me back. I can't get in. They won't let me get into the unit. It happens, okay? Some people say, no, I have no damage. You can't come in. Fine, we'll accept that. We'll not go into that unit, even though we say the water went down 3 floors. We'll skip whoever tells us no. And I'm sure the extraction people get the same thing. You can't come in, there's nothing wrong. And then of course, something's going to be wrong later on and they're going to come back to us. But in the meantime, not only do owners need to cooperate, the adjuster does need help. In other words, sometimes he can't get in, or sometimes, like I had a claim that involved a high rise, involved 80 units. There's no way we can make 80 appointments. We said, hey, association, put a sign in your elevator. The adjuster's going to be there 4 days this week between the hours of, and if you're not going to be home during that time, make sure the manager has your key because he's going to see all units during there. I mean, you've got to do, sometimes you've got to help because it's next to impossible. The adjuster also needs governing docs. So if I don't have them, or somebody says, oh, I need a copy of your documents, it's not that we're out trying to sell them to anybody else. We're only going to give them to the adjusters, whether it's the HO6 adjuster or whether it's the master policy adjuster, but they have to have them to determine what is covered. You can't just guess. Okay. Number 6, when the claim is done and we've gotten through all the hassle, and it's been months of hassle, 6 to 8 weeks for just a everyday claim, water claim, you finally get a check. So for managers, please deposit the check, even if you don't know what to do with it. Just deposit it, make a copy, leave it on your desk. When you are ready, feel free to call the agent and say, okay, or email us a copy. I got this check, what do I do with it? Okay, and I don't care if it's 1 month after we gave you the check or 6 months after. Somebody's going to be calling for that money, and when they do get the check over to us, we will tell you exactly how to break it out, okay? So we're here to help, and we want to help, okay? Because otherwise those owners are calling us just like they're calling you, or the extractors are calling you because they want their money, and you can't blame them, they've done the work. We want to get everybody paid. So even if you don't know what to do with a check, all I ask is you deposit it so it doesn't get stale dated, because nothing worse than trying to get a policy, a check that's been stale dated reissued. It takes a long time because we have to mail it back if you have it. If you don't have it, they have to put a stop pay. They're not going to cut you another check until they get word it's been a stop pay. It goes through their accounting department. It's a process. So I always say, deposit it, we'll deal with it later, when in doubt, okay? And then of course the agents are there to help you. Number 7, so you finally had a claim, you've got the money there, you've paid everybody out, but you're short because you had a $10,000 deductible, and the causative owner had maybe only $2,000 worth of damage. And now you're short the $8,000 you need to pay the innocent people. So you have to send an assessment letter. No HO6 carrier is going to pay without an assessment letter, okay? So even though you don't want to do them, property managers, you kind of have no choice, because the claim can't get settled without that $8,000 you need on this $10,000 deductible. And you're going to do 3 things with the deductible. You're either going to pay it, and I don't know many associations, in fact, I don't know any association that says we're always going to pay the deductible, okay? You would have to, some of you would have to have another $100,000 set aside for deductibles because you have lots of claims, okay? So best thing is, somebody has to pay the deductible. More than likely, it's number 2, the causative owner. That's the easiest one. So Savio, your washing machine leaked, your ice maker leaked, whatever, or the pipe behind the wall that services just your unit leaked. Your problem, okay? You're getting the deductible. I have to have that letter that says you are assessing me the $10,000 deductible, but you've got $2,000 from this claim, so we only need 8, cough it up. I need that letter, because I have to send that to my HO6 carrier, who will then send you the money, minus my personal HO6 deductible of, say, $500. which I will make up. Okay, so it has to be done. You have to do this letter. If you can't determine what unit it is because it was the association's common element pipe that backed up because there was all kind of grease down there or bottle or whatever the case may be, then you can split the deductible amongst the owners receiving proceeds. So if someone's getting 20% of the claim money, they get 20% of the deductible. Someone's getting 50% of the claim money, they get 50% of the deductible. The letter still has to go out that we are assessing you. You have to write a few more letters, just change the name and the amounts, and you've got to send that letter out. So the HO6 adjuster, who's going to handle the claim for the unit owner, will know how much he has to pay towards this deductible. They will make that up to their unit owner, to their client. Okay, so it's not like they're going to be out. I'm not going to be out this money that you assessed it to me, even though it's not my fault. Okay, you hear that all the time. Well, it's not my fault, the association's fine. It's the board's fault. Well, you know, as I tell people, the members on the board are only board members when they're at the meeting. The rest of the time, they're homeowners like you. And if one of them were in this claim, they were going to be assessed too. It's not, you all own these pipes. And when they back up, you're all in trouble, okay? If you're one of the units that's going to be involved in the claim and suffer the deductible. It's just the way of condo land. It's what I tell people all the time. We live in condo land. It's a strange and fun place, but it's got little quirks and we have to learn to live with them. So you can split the deductible amongst the owners receiving proceeds. I tell you, normally do it on a percentage basis. Don't say 5 owners, they each get $1,000 in the deductible. No, because maybe they're only getting $200 for the claim. I don't want for this claim. So make sure it's on percentage of what they receive, and I can help you with that if you need it, gladly. Okay, number 8, to get through claims. When in doubt, call, email the agent for help. I'm not the only agent in town who would gladly help you. I know other agents who do condo work, and they gladly will help you. So you've got to learn to call the agent. If you have one of those crummy agents that won't return your call, you can always ask one of us who will return your call and help you. It doesn't have to be our claim. We understand that there are times when people don't get back to you. And just like Anthony's going to tell you to call him, even if it's not his, I'm going to tell you the same thing. Call me, even if I don't do this account, I'll gladly will help you. We want, but please always call us when it is ours, because we want the owners off our back as much as you do. And let's be honest, people, if the owners don't get their claim money, there's nothing worse when I get an email that says, you know, the claim happened 6 months ago and I haven't received my proceeds. What's going on? And I say, why are you emailing me so late, 6 months after the claim? I say, well, a check was sent. Are you telling me you received no money? And they email back and say, yes, I've received no money. Now I got to go to the property management firm and say, what happened to this check? Sometimes the checks never even showed up to the property management firm. Okay, who knows where it is? Okay, we have to put a stop pay and start all over. That's an easy one. Other times, yeah, it's sitting here. I just didn't know what to do with it. Well, you know what? You should have called, because we're here to help. So we don't want owners calling us way after the fact. We don't want you guys to look bad, and we don't want to look bad either. So we want to get this thing solved as quickly as possible. And sending them the proceeds of the claim is the best way. Now, granted, when you send them the money and they see that they're going to get part of the deductible assessed to them, they're going to scream and yell. But all you got to do in your letter, and I do this for all of you, I say just put in there, if you have any questions about this settlement, please call your agent. And then you put my name and number, or whoever the agent is, and let them deal with it. And if they call you, say, well, you know, you really have to talk to the agent about that. It's out of my hands. And just throw them over to us, because we're used to explaining the claims and why they're involved, even though they're the innocent party. Okay, and that there's no fault with property claims. It doesn't matter who's at fault. There's no such thing when it comes to a property claim. It's just, did it happen? Is it above the deductible? Then we owe the money, okay, for the as-built. So please always put in your letters to call the agent, get them off your back. You got other things to do. We got nothing to do, just filing claims all day. So my best way for claim happiness, do not have claims. I mean, we would all be, can you imagine a world with no claims? Of course, then I'd have no insurance to sell. So I don't mind a few claims, but 7 to 10 a day is way too many. So we need to put our roofs on inspection contracts, you know, once a year, have somebody go up, or every 6 months, check our roofs. Do we have problems up there that we never see because we're not going up there? High-risk plumbing inspection is really the best way, people. And it doesn't have to be done yearly, but every 5 to 7 years. Appliances don't last much longer. and you need to change out water heaters at least every 7 to 10 years max, because they do rust out, and water heaters have 80 gallons of water, and that's a great claim. You know, it always happens when no one's home, or it's at 2 in the morning when you're sleeping, you wake up to water. Okay, so I can't express to you the need to make sure that high-risk plumbing inspections are done, and you can do them through 514B. There is a procedure there where you actually have the right to do this. Warn the owners you're coming, send out the plumber, force the owners to repair. If the owners don't repair, you actually have the right to repair for them and charge it. Same thing on the HO6. You know, if they've opted in to 514 insurance section, you can actually force place an HO6 as well. But again, they have to have opted in. Even though we're all in 514B, if they've not opted into that insurance section with 50.1%, you can't force place an HO6. But if they have, you can even make sure they have an HO6. So if they do have claims and you have a high deductible, you know you'll get your money. But anyway, high-risk plumbing inspection really works out. We did our very first one back in the 90s, like 1992 or so, and for a condo that was having, on Oahu, that was having so many troubles, the water claims, the insurance company didn't want to insure it. So I made a deal with the company. You give me 3 months, I'll get the association to have a plumber go and inspect every water-bearing appliance. We'll stop the claims, you know, and we stopped the claims. They agreed, we stopped the claims, and they didn't have their next water claim until the 9th year. 9 years after. And I said, okay, guys, time for that plumbing inspection again. And it really does help, because people don't look at their appliances. I mean, ask yourself, do you look at yours? I mean, I received a plumbing inspection for one of my units that said my water heater was rusting out at the bottom. I called the plumber right away. I said, get me a new water heater ASAP. I said, I'm the insurance agent. I cannot have 80 gallons falling down on people. It looks bad. You got to take care of this instantly. He says, well, you want a price quote? I said, just do it, okay? Just do it, because if the place is wet, my tenant's going to move out. I'm going to lose the rent anyway. Who cares? Get it done, okay? And that's the kind of thing you want. You want people, force people to do it. Now, if I chose not to do that, the board had the right to say, okay, Sue, we gave you 30 days. You didn't do it. We're going to do it, and we're charging it to you, okay? So it's just, you'd be surprised the power you have to control water claims when it comes to this high-risk plumbing inspection. And of course, for the association, you got to clean out your pipes every now and then. And I realize some of our pipes are so old now, we dare not clean them out because we're just going to create more claims. But when you get new pipes, like a lot of condos on Oahu are repiping, or if you're going to be redoing something on with your pipes and your low rises, that's the time to make sure that you go ahead and get them cleaned out on an annual basis, or whatever the case may be, or put cameras down them to see what's going on. It really will make a difference and help stop claims, because the cost of water claims has really risen. Gone are the days when you can extract a unit for $1,000. It's a minimum of 5 right now. The minute I hear, oh, there's 4 units involved, I multiply it by 5 and say, oh, over the deductible, let me file a claim. So we really do want to try to get into claim happiness. And it's not to have them, or it's to really reduce the claims so we can move on with what we really want to do, and that is manage the properties for you and for me to go out and insure them and do my thing as well, and help when there is something like a fire or something more serious. Not that water claims aren't serious, but they're just so rampant. There's so many of them. We just sort of need to get beyond that. So that's it. In conclusion, thank you for your time. Anthony, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. I always learn something like I've heard you present probably half a dozen times now, and I always learn something. So just to confirm, you mentioned something about HO6 rate increases. So if I'm an insurance carrier, in order to do a rate increase on HO6 policies, I have to do it unilaterally and with the approval of the insurance division?
That's exactly right. I had a company that wanted to put the proof into the insurance commissioner that they deserved an 80% increase because their losses and what they collected. Now the insurance commissioner doesn't believe him. He sends it to an actuarial who looks it over and came back and actually told the insurance commissioner, yes, they deserve an 80% increase to cover their claims from the rate they've been going. Insurance commissioner said, we'll give you 15%. That's the max he allowed them, 15%, because he knew darn well if he allowed them to have 80%, he'd be hearing from all kinds of people calling him, grumbling about what's going on with his company. So they got a 15% increase. So they called me and they said, Sue, we want to know what buildings have changed their pipes, because we're going to be selective about the condos that we want to insure, because we can't get the rate increase we need. Why would we want to write coverage and lose money? Everybody wants to make a profit. It doesn't have to be 100% profit, but we all need to make a profit, cover our expenses. You know, whether you're a property management company, an extraction company, or an insurance agent, we all have expenses that we want to cover. So the insurance company did that. They only got a 15% increase. They all over all of their HO6s, you know, not just the bad buildings.
Yeah.
And they were then going to be very careful about raising the deductibles on their HO6 from 500 maybe to 1,000. And this company also has a $2,500 deductible for their clients that don't seem to take care of their things. So yes, that's how it works.
Wow, I never knew that. And then the other question I had was, what do you think is the percentage of buildings that actually are performing a high-risk plumbing inspection?
I don't know really the percentage, because I don't do all the condos, though I wish I did.
Yeah.
But I would say I would bet more than 50% do that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I get a lot of calls that say, you know, how do we do this? What can you send me some information? You know, and I send them a typical inspection list, and I send them a typical letter to send with it. So, and it's getting to be more and more of that, especially as our condos get older, you know, because we're having a lot of issues with our appliances. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And I would assume that anybody on this call that wants to learn more about how to affect that in their buildings, they can get a hold of you, right? You can get them going in that direction. Cool. All right. Thanks, Sue. Okay. We'll go ahead and I'll share my screen. Here we go. Oop. I got okay. And slideshow. Okay. You guys see my screen now? All good?
You see it.
Okay, cool. I always like to confirm, because I've started talking and I haven't had the right screen up before, and like 5 minutes go by and somebody's like, hey, we don't see your screen. So, okay, real quickly, so Premier Restoration, you know, like I talked about at the start with Sue, we view it as our role to try and support the community. Insurance claims, particularly in condo buildings, tend to be the most complicated things that you can experience in your entire life, it feels like. Very few things are more complicated than that. And so we try and be good stewards of the claims process and assist in any way that we can. And so, like I said, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to call. From myself down to our customer care coordinators, our business development folks, you know, we all operate in the way that, you know what, like our job is to help first. And then, you know, if we can earn your work as a result of doing you a solid, cool. If not, like, we've done our duty to our community to try and make this world a little bit better place. So making a difference daily by restoring the lives of people, businesses, and communities of Hawaii, that's very, very important to us. Okay, so whenever I do these presentations, I always try and think, okay, who's the audience that I'm presenting to, and what do I know that I feel like would be relevant to them? Or the other way I tend to look at it is, what if I was a board member? What if I was a CAM and I was sitting in that seat? What knowledge would I want to know that I know, because I've been doing this for a long time? And so I always try and tailor my presentations that way to really just be surgical, give good, quick, effective information. And so this is just some language that's cut and pasted out of the Condominium Property Regime Board Member Power and Duties. This was a document that was put together in July 15th, 2009. And it specifically talking about the business judgment rule. So the business judgment rule recognizes that volunteer boards will not always make the right decision, but if they follow the right procedures and act in the interest of the association, they will usually not be personally liable for their actions on behalf of the association. board members should remember the following important points about the business judgment rule. There's a whole bunch of points, but the one that I really wanted to just emphasize today is number 6, do something. The rule will not protect you if you fail to act. If you do nothing, it should be only because you are carefully considered the issue and consciously decided to do nothing, not because you've ignored the issue and hope that it would go away. Making the wrong decision may be less damaging than making no decision at all. And the reason why I bring this up is, we have a lot of, we'll get phone calls from a variety of different sources. Sometimes it's from a property manager, a resident manager, sometimes it's from a unit owner. And there always seems to be this stalemate on, okay, who's going to pay and how is this going to move forward, right? And I'll tell you the one thing that I know for a fact after restoring properties for 20 years is if it is wet, it will likely get more expensive the greater the number of days before we act. So if it takes 3 days for us to show up, if it takes 5 days because somebody is saying, okay, well, we don't know who's going to pay for it. Is it the master policy? Is it the HO6? A lot of the times that only exacerbates the cost of the claim. And so whenever I'm talking with folks, I'm always like, look, just call us. We'll come out. We'll do the extraction. And I don't need to know who's paying in the middle of the night when you call me. Like I will show up, one of our technicians, yes, it's their job to go ahead and try and get a work authorization signed. But at the end of the day, none of my staff are told, look, you cannot do work if you don't get that work authorization signed. No, that would be in direct conflict with our mission and our values. We show up, we extract, we get the property, start the property down the path of getting clean, safe, and dry, and hopefully buy you guys some time so then that way we can figure out, okay, is it over the deductible? Is it not? What are the next steps that we need to take? So little something that I wanted to share. So looking at it through the lens, just speaking a little more generically, how should restorers help AOAO staff and boards? So the majority of restorers, we're 24/7, 365. We do water extraction, critical cleaning, and board up and securing the property. Those are the services that historically restorers have offered in an emergency capacity. And so we're staffed that way. We will respond in the middle of the night. I'm not the only company who does this, and there's a reason why, is because hours do matter. So there's this excerpt from the 2002 New York City Mold Remediation Guidelines, and I'm not going to read it, but I'll paraphrase. And so originally when the document was put together, they had stated, they referenced a timeline of 24 to 48 hours. You have 24 to 48 hours to start drying to prevent mold growth. And it even went a step further and said, even if materials are dried within 48 hours, mold growth may have occurred. There was a ton of litigation that happened around that statement, so they removed it to remove the litigious nature of the document. But it is despite that, it is still generally understood that mold can, I'm going to say the word can, start growing within the first 24 to 48 hours. Now, does that mean that we reliably see it start growing that quickly? No. There's a number of circumstances where we do not. There was a study by a gentleman named Kurt Bolden in Indiana where he took wall assemblies, 2x4 wall assemblies with a sheet of drywall, and then on the back side he had a sheet of plexiglass, got them soaking wet, and just left them alone. And he was basically creating a study to say, okay, number one, how quickly will mold take to grow on these materials, and where will it grow? And so the first mold spore they identified, they did, I think it was like 12 or 14 of these wall assemblies. The first mold growth he saw was actually on a 2x4, not on the craft paper backing of drywall, which we all assumed it would always be the craft paper backing of drywall, and it took 14 days. Now, obviously, that was building materials that were clean, had no previous contamination, had no history of loss attached to them, kind of the most ideal of situations. So I share both sides of this coin with you to say, like, we really don't know. But when it comes to, health and safety and the security of building occupants, we're always going to err a little bit closer to the side of moving forward and removing something we suspect to be contaminated, or we'll do some visual inspections. Maybe we have to drill a hole or two, pull some baseboard to identify, look, is there any mold growing here? And so we always try and find that middle ground between doing what's safe and prudent for the property, but balancing that with knowing, like, hey, if I remove the drywall from your condo, that's a step further away from you being able to live here. And so we always try and make that decision consciously. Okay, so I laid out two scenarios here. In the first scenario, this is just what our emergency response would look like if it were a Category 1 water loss. So, and then if for each step in the parentheses, I put the duration in days that that step takes. So if this was just a normal, clean water loss, we're going to show up, identify and isolate the source of the loss. Step 1, we'll go ahead and extract the free water, and usually we can do that in a matter of minutes, sometimes hours. Step 2, we'll perform the necessary demolition. This can take up to a day. Typically, it does not take a full day. Typically, we do it in conjunction with the extraction. Remove some baseboard. If maybe there's a sheet vinyl floor that we know we can't dry under, we'll remove that. And then we'll monitor the drying. So drying usually takes between 3 and 5 days. In most situations, if it's double layered drywall with insulation and we're trying to save it, it can take up to 7. Some exotic hardwoods can take extended durations, but most projects are between 3 and 5, and that's given, you know, the unit owners, you know, don't open the windows and they don't unplug our equipment when they go to bed, a number of ifs, but as long as the equipment stays running and the windows are closed, they get dry in 3 to 5 days. And then our last step, we just do a quick verification with thermal imaging, our moisture meters, and it usually results in about a total of 5 days. So if you called us first thing on a Monday, usually we can get you dry by Friday and we're on our way out the door. We might have some baseboard to reinstall, maybe some touch-up paint to do after that, but it's never a situation where somebody usually is displaced as a result of the demolition that we had to do in a Category 1 loss. Now, assuming you wait 72 hours and the category of water degrades from Category 1 to Category 3, this is what you could expect. So we'll show up, obviously identify and isolate the source of loss. Because we've noticed either we see some visual growth, a lot of the times we'll use our sniffers if there's some olfactory observations. That's what we call when we sniff things that smell bad. We'll do an initial knockdown with the disinfectant, particularly if it smells bad. Extract the free water. Then we're going to establish what's called containment, which is polyethylene barriers that will prevent cross-contamination from the affected area to the unaffected areas. We'll stabilize the environment. Usually that's just us putting a dehumidifier, an air scrubber in. And then whenever I tell somebody that I have to remove drywall or flooring out of their condo unit, they usually go, wait, hang on. So what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? How am I going to handle this situation? Who's going to pay for it? And usually getting the approval to start work takes about a week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes it's immediate. Some buildings and some unit owners are like, no, go, I understand. But on average, it's about 5 days. We'll remove the contaminated building materials. Usually takes about a day. We have a pressure clean and disinfect step. It takes about a day. We'll go ahead and dry. If we're removing all the building materials that are affected, the porous building materials, then what's left dries pretty easy. It takes about 3 days. We'll verify that drying. And then once we're at a point where we're dry, we'll perform our critical cleaning and then perform post-remediation verification. We'll do that with an independent third party. I always use the analogy of, you know, a doctor and a pharmacist. You never get your pills from the doctor. You always get them from the pharmacist. So the people who are checking our work are the doctors and we are the pharmacists. They're just making sure they're keeping us honest and making sure that we're doing things the right way. And then we'll receive those results and break down. So if you add up all those number of days, your 5-day project all of a sudden went to 16 days because of a delay in making a phone call to a restoration company. Next thing that how restorers can help AOAO at staffs and boards is with technical advice. So we can help you identify the category of water, the location and presence of hazardous materials, and in some circumstances where the source of the loss is not clear, we can help you identify that. Click through here. All right, so if anybody sat through one of my presentations, this is something that I can go on at great lengths about, but category of water is super critical and important. So category 1 water originates from a sanitary source and does not pose substantial risk from dermal ingestion or inhalation exposure. It's safe. Category 2 contains significant contamination and has the potential to cause discomfort or sickness. Those are the key words if contacted or consumed by humans. So category 2 is upset tummy. If you decided to drink this water, you're going to get an upset tummy, but you might end up in the hospital. It's probably not going to kill you. Category 3, grossly contaminated, can contain pathogenic or toxinogenic or other harmful agents. And the reason why determining category of water is so important is it will dictate what our scope of work is more than anything else. So in some situations, we'll get into healthy debates with building managers about what the category of water is. So the most common one is the image on the bottom left is this was a washing machine. It had discharged the water into the sanitary pipe. There was a clog in the sanitary pipe further downstream that forced that water to then back up out of a floor drain. You can see there's some suds in the water, but other than that, the water looks and appears and smells like it came from a washing machine discharge. However, because that water did transfer through the same pipe that all the toilets flush through, we cannot treat it as a category 2. We have to treat it as a category 3. Now, in this particular claim, the resident manager was engaged in a healthy debate with us, and he brought up a good point. He's like, how do you know for sure? You said it goes through these pipes and that it could pick up some harmful agents that could cause, pathogenic, toxinogenic. But how do you know for sure? And so that was a good question. And I didn't know the answer at that time. This was probably 6-7 years ago. And so I really wanted to just have data. I'm a big fan of data. I like data. And so I said, okay, how can we fix this problem? How can we give them the answer that's not, okay, well, the book says if it does this, we can give them an answer that is based on analytical data. So we have what's called ATP testing, adenosine triphosphate testing, real simple test. You take, it's like a cotton swab like you use to clean your ear, and it's contained in this little applicator with a little bit of reagent juice. And so you break the thing, the reagent juice goes on the Q-tip, you swab the surface with the Q-tip, and then you put it in a machine and it instantly reads it and gives you a number. And based on what number comes out, Based on what number comes out, you can identify the category of water. And so we started doing this on jobs, and then the question was, okay, well, how do I know that your sampling is correct? And so we actually had a few circumstances where we called in independent third parties to do ATP testing to validate when we were calling it a category 3 to confirm if it was a category 3. Because at the end of the day, if it's category 2, I don't have to remove drywall. And from my perspective as a restoration contractor, anytime I can dry something, we make more profit. When I remove drywall, I instantly make less profit. Everybody thinks that, when we go and remove more drywall, we instantly make more money. Usually we make more revenue, but that revenue does not go through to the bottom line. I can tell you the technicians we have in the field cost us way more money than the little blue machines that dry the drywall. So I wish that we had tested this and it came back as category 2, but it did test and come back as category 3. And then on a few other circumstances where we had assumed that it was category 2, but it was kind of on this weird line, we had it tested and it actually came back as category 3. So usually the testing is in favor of escalating a category, not de-escalating a category. So we typically don't recommend the testing, but if we have somebody who's like, how do you know? I would like to have data. That is something we can do. And the independent third parties we work with know that when they get that phone call, they better be on the road on the way there, because we want to start this project right away to reduce any sort of microbial growth, those types of things. To help everybody out, and if you want a copy of this, Kira has it in a nice little PDF. We created a material salvageability chart. All of this information is contained within our standard of care document called the IICRC S500, which is a standard of care for water damage. But it refers to building materials as porous, non-porous, or semi-porous, and gives you direction on what to do with them if they're category 1, category 2, category 3. I added the asbestos testing requirements and the what to do if it actually has physical mold growth on it. But just kind of a quick reference guide. If you're sitting at your desk, you get a phone call and somebody says, oh my gosh, it was a clean water loss and it's laminate floor. You can look at the laminate wood line and it'll tell you based on the category what needs to happen. Okay, so the third thing restorers should do to help AOAOs is assist with claims handling and reporting. I think when Sue did a really good job of relaying the importance of the incident report. I will say that our documentation does not negate the need for the incident report. However, we're pretty good at capturing a ton of photographs, a ton of empirical data, temperature, relative humidity, what's wet, moisture maps, that kind of stuff when we're doing our work. And while it does not substitute for that independent report from a resident manager or a property manager, this is a ton of data and information that steps in to substantiate what is in that report. So estimates, daily notes, updates, photos, sketches, drawing logs. I've been both annoyed and impressed over the past 20 years with the amount of information that we are capturing in the field. It is difficult to take guys who, historically have the first smartphone they have is the one I give them, and get them to a level of proficiency where they're taking 6 photos per room. Their daily notes are actually telling a story. But I always find that if you take the time and you explain why it's important, usually the guys are like, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but I get it. So these are all things that most restorers do in the course of business. Here's an example. So this is a photograph of a ceiling that had a little bit of water damage. If you were to zoom in, you would see there's a few drywall tape joints right around this light fixture that are starting to show through. But other than that, it looks very, very small. When you start to look at it under thermal imaging, you can start to see the actual true scope of what's wet. So if a claims adjuster, just got this photo and is like, oh, that's a small claim, I probably don't need to go out and take a look at that, versus the side-by-side with the thermal imaging photo. But, oh my gosh, okay, almost that whole ceiling's wet. I should probably show up. Comprehensive estimates, depending on what's happening on the property, we can write them in Xactimate, we can do them T&M. There's a number of different ways that we can record costing in that documentation. Sketching is something that we're pretty proficient on. Right now, we do a lot with Matterport 3D imaging, so you can actually do a walkthrough when you're sitting at your computer desk of the site. We're scanning once upon arrival, and then once again after we've done all of our necessary removal if we have to remove anything. So those scans are available, and we share them freely with anybody who needs them. This is just some screen grabs. This is a typical project. This was just the corner of the garage. But you can see there's 9 photos illustrating moisture meter readings, kind of giving you a good idea of what the scope of work is, stills of the thermal imaging, and then as well as the data capture from, our psychometrics, so relative humidity, specific humidity, air temperatures. There's a whole science that goes around drying that if you get me going on, I get really, really keyed up and nerdy and deep on, and usually people start to fall asleep. So we're not going to go there, but just know that there's a ton of science that goes behind drying. And that's pretty much all I had. I wanted to keep it brief. And so what I will do is I'll turn it over to Leimana, who's going to ask our 5 questions about the information that she learned today. And let's go ahead and give away some Amazon gift cards.
Thank you, Anthony. I just want to thank both of you, Anthony and Sue, for this awesome presentation. And I want to thank all of you guys. I know the whole, both of them and their companies are very grateful for you to give your valuable time to these presentations. And just real quickly before I start, I just wanted to introduce who I am. I'm Leimana Fanoi Moana. I'm the Business Development Manager on Hawaii Island. My colleagues are also joining me. And that is, if you can see, just raise your hand. Erin Pasqua, sorry, for whatever reason I clicked off. Here we go. Erin, if you can raise your hand, she's our Maui BDM. David is not joining us, David Portias, who you guys have probably worked with, and also Lauren Rollins, who is the General Manager. Both are based on Oahu. So as Kira had mentioned earlier, we're gonna give away $50 Amazon cards. How you guys can win them, this is gonna be digitally sent out to you, so immediately after the presentation. With the Zoom capability, all you have to do is just say your name and you shall be, I think you're gonna populate on the screen. So just say your name, and then that way we can all kind of monitor who's the first one to react. Kira, if you can also help me while I read these questions.
Yeah, for sure. So guys, just unmute yourself if you want to participate, and then you know, respond, and then we'll be able to see who responds first.
Yes, yeah, exciting stuff. You can buy that pellet gun that Anthony was showing earlier. So question number 1, let's see. This is referring back to Anthony. So Anthony had 2 photos determining class and category of water. What category of water would a washing machine backup be if it comes up through a floor drain?
Leah.
Category 3.
3.
Did we catch who that was? I heard Leah first.
No.
Yeah, I said Leah, category 3.
Okay. So
All right,
Leah
Leah
Davina,
Davina.
is that your name?
Yes.
Okay.
Good job. I think that's Big Island. Awesome.
Woohoo.
Alrighty. Number 2. Again, this is referring to Anthony's presentation. How quickly can mold start growing?
At 48 hours.
20. Wow.
Was that Ed?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so Ed said 48 hours, which technically it is within that range.
24.
So I'll let Anthony go ahead and just make that call because he has a range for me in his answer.
Well, not specific, because we really don't know. So 24 is correct, 48 is correct. That's what all the science says.
Okay.
Okay,
the
so is
answer-
was that Eddie Moran?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Great job. Okay, now we're switching over to Sue's presentation. Who does an HO6 policy cover?
Leah.
Tiffany
the
Mancal,
homeowner.
the interior homeowners units, betterments, improvements, and coverage for the interior unit.
Kira, you want to go and verify who that was? I think Malia has a helper over there who has.
So it's not popping up like I thought it would show up.
He said the owner.
Oh, yeah, Tiffany Mancal, I said it was the owner's unit, their interior walls, betterments, improvements, and just overall coverage.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes. The condo owner is who it covers. Okay, number 4. Sue gave 8 steps when you have a claim. What is the first step when you have a
Malia,
claim?
turn off the water or stop the incident, mitigation, turn off the water, call the fire department.
Awesome. Great job. Yes, you want to stop the cause of the damage.
Okay, so that
Great job.
that was Malia Myers, correct?
Yeah, she was ready to throw her. Is that your son? To the screen. Awesome. And question number 5. Sue discussed details about the assessment letter in step number 7. What is one of 3 ways a master policy deductible can be paid?
Tiffany
Charles.
Mancal by the source owner.
Yes, that's correct. The causative owner. So good job, you guys. The other 2 to that would have been by the AOUO or split amongst owners receiving proceeds from the claim. So great job. You guys obviously did a great job paying attention. That's awesome.
Thanks, Laimana. And before, I know everybody's got a busy day, but I always like to ask the question. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If not, we'll go ahead and start to wind down and let everybody get back to their super busy days. Just know, I'll reiterate one more time, Sue and I are here to help. We really want the complicated process of condo claims to go smoother, not just for us, but for everybody in the state of Hawaii. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate. Give us a shout. We're always happy to help.
And then also everybody attending today, I'm going to send out a link to this this meeting's been recorded. So if you have any resident managers or anybody else in the industry who you think would benefit from the information, you can just easily share the link. I'll probably just post to our YouTube, so it'll be a YouTube link.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Sue, so Eddie Moran had a question. He says, I have owners who say they cannot get HO6 because of their claims history. Is that true?
You
That's a
can
good
get you can get HO6. It'll cost them more. They'll have a higher deductible, but there are companies that will write them. But it's not going to be the $400. It's not going to be the $1,000 deductible. It's going to be at least $2,500. But it's better than nothing.
It's true.
Perfect, thank you.
Now see, he's on
And
his
then-
computer picture.
And then there was another one from Benjamin. He says, what is the future of deductible minimums? Ben, are you talking about on the master policy side or the HO6 side?
Master policy. Like, I
Master
know we're
policy.
trending upward. Sue mentioned what 5,000 is kind of the lowest, right? But I've
Yep.
noticed that trickle up. I'm wondering like if 5,000 is going to be a thing of the past, right? And if we're going to see 10, 25 as like the norm in the near future.
Ben, I think the 5,000 will be converted to 10 for most people. And then there's going to be several people, especially the high rises, that are going to have 25,000. And I even have a high rise that it's a complicated deductible. It's 25,000 per unit with a max of 300,000 for any one claim. So you figure there's 5 or 6 units. They're all going to have 25. If it's a huge claim in 80 units, the deductible is 300,000 for that claim. That has to then be assessed how the board decides to do it. So that is the worst one I have. But most of them are going to be 25 to 50,000 until we stop these water claims.
Cool. Let's see, there's another question. So it says, when we renewed our insurance in June, we received a notice excluding water damage on our commercial general liability coverage. Do we need to take additional steps? And if so, what?
Okay, so what that is saying is that if somebody sues, they're blaming the association as to why the water overflowed, there's going to be no coverage anymore on your liability policy. It's only on your property policy. That's not a good place to be in. And if you can find a carrier that will not do that, that's basically what you need to do. But there are more and more carriers that are saying, the association, we're not going to cover any kind of a lawsuit if you were sued for a water overflow claim. So it's going to then be on the backs of all the owners to cover that claim. So it's not a good spot to be in. Doesn't happen often when an owner sues, but it does. And you don't want to be that association without that coverage.
Okay, cool. We're getting some of them. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So AOUO versus AOAO. Like, what is AOUO? If you could elaborate on that, yeah.
AOAO is the old, for those of us who've been in the business a long time, everybody was an AOAO. Then 2008 came along and they decided when they recodified the bylaws that we really weren't an association of apartment owners, but we are an association of unit owners. which in a way is true because it's not an apartment building, it's a condo. So then the AOUO came out, though us old folks just prefer AOAO because it's so much easier to say. So either one's acceptable, but everybody really is an AOUO.
Got it. Another question from Eddie. What happens when an owner is determined causative and they have no HO6? Do we have our AOAO attorney go after for the deductible, or does insurance company attorney go after owner? Basically, is it the AOAO that goes after, or does the insurance handle that?
Insurance company doesn't care about the deductible and you trying to collect it. So they're not going to help you on that. But you have the power to assess their account. So you shouldn't have to waste attorney fees on it. You should be able to put it on their account. So they owe a $5,000 deductible or whatever they owe. It's on their maintenance fee account. If you have priority of payment, and I know there's some legislative workings going on there, but if you have priority of payment, you actually have the right to take the maintenance fees and pay the assessment off. So at one point in time, they're going to say, well, I better pay this damn deductible because I don't want to lose my unit because I'm not paying my maintenance fees. So I know it varies by what rules you carry, but you should be able to handle it yourselves. And of course, the best thing is to work with the owner that says, look, can I pay you so much per month? You know, and you work it out that way. So before you hire the attorney, try to get it solved with one of those issues first.
Right on. I got another one. Anthony, what if an owner wants to add upgrades when you're performing repairs? Do you charge them separate outside of the as-built claim? Yeah, so commonly this happens a lot, and it can get a little dicey. So we'll go ahead, if the adjuster requests it, we'll go ahead and split as-built versus from betterments and improvements. So then that way you can kind of see it for the two coverage areas. And then we do affect repairs outside of that scope. You know, so if a unit owner said, hey, I had a laminate floor and now I want to put tile in, obviously there's a cost difference there. But in our system, we can keep track of all of that pretty separately, and it's pretty transparent. You know, nobody's left sitting there going, why am I paying for this? It's pretty clear. Everybody knows how to do it. And so we can work through all of that. And there's a system of like credits and debits and all that goes back and forth, but totally doable, totally possible, happens every day. All right. I think that's it. That was all of our questions, Sue.
Very good.
So from Sue and I, thanks so much for sharing some of your time today. And I hope you guys have an excellent weekend. Take care and aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.